This is Creepy and Geeky. Welcome to Creepy and Geeky. I'm your host, Robert, and on today's episode, we're back with another stretch of MCU episodes that will get us all caught up. Today, I'll be talking to Ashley Thomas about the Marvels. But first, Donna and I are talking about the stuff we got into this last week. How's it going, Donna?
You know what, Robert? It's going pretty good. I am back in the land of the living because I was so ill this past week. Y'all don't know. For a minute there, I didn't know if I was gonna make it.
Well, when you get, especially when you get to our age and you get really sick and you're just like, oh God, is this it?
Is this
Am I
gonna be
dying?
it?
It's a little bit different when you're in your 20s. You're like, yeah, I got this beat.
You
You like
bounce
actually
back.
just pop a couple of pills and then you go into
Yeah.
work. Like now I'm like, nah, I ain't going to work if I'm sick. Hell
And
no.
it's terrible because I work from home and I
Yeah.
literally could not work. And it was like, it's bad. If I don't get sick. I literally get sick maybe once a year. And
Yeah.
this is not the way I wanted to kick this year.
Right.
This better be the only
This is
time because it
this
was
is about
terrible.
how this year's been going, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, but I'm a lot better now. I still sound a little froggy, so if you all hear me sounding a little frog that I still have a touch of it, but way better than I was. I literally thought I was on death's door. I was just like I knew it was bad, but my husband was like, "So you're not gonna go to work?" And I said, "No." And he's like, "Oh my god." Because he
Yeah.
knows me. I will work through my sickness because 'cause I'm at home and I can look crappy, nobody can see me or
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly.
But nah, no dice. I was out of commission. But I'm so much better now. Now I get to be here and be
Yay.
spunky and get on your nerves and whatnot.
Yeah. You never get on my nerves.
So, due to the fact that I was ill, I feel like I'm doing the dog ate my homework. I only have 2 things with me today, so to talk about. So, just to give you that full disclosure.
Yeah, I have a few, but I'm sure that your two might cross over with mine, so we'll see what happens. But we'll go ahead and start with yours first, just to make sure. So, what is your first item for this week?
Yeah, so I just actually saw a trailer while I was incapacitated of of a brand new Hulu movie that's going to be debuting this month on March 13th called Control Freak. And
Oh,
it looks really interesting. It's actually based on a short film that was out in 2021 called Control for their Hulu bite-sized Halloweens. They had a bunch of
right,
shorts. And so this is just kind of a longer movie version of that short. And it's all about this motivational speaker who has this kind of, I guess, annoying itch on the back of her head. And as this journey of this itch and where it's coming from goes on, we kind of see that she's going to have to battle a parasitic demon from her actual homeland. It looks interesting. I'm fully in. Hulu has been making some really unique horror films, and
yeah,
not all of them are great, but they do make good for entertaining watch. Like, even if you don't like all of their original movies, there is something interesting about all of them.
right,
So, looking forward to that one.
yeah, cool. Yeah, I'll have to check out that trailer. I had not heard about that one. All right. Well, let me go ahead and do one of mine, which I kind of doubt this one will be on your list, but there was a trailer for a movie that I just saw yesterday for a movie called Sacramento. And it's not horror. This one's
Mhm.
like a buddy comedy. It's got Michael Cera in it, and I'm totally forgetting the other guy's name. Um, and but it's also got oh my gosh, I'm totally forgetting everybody's name. Um, sorry.
Okay, okay.
It's got Michael Angarano, who also directed it, and who wrote the screenplay, co-wrote the screenplay. It's got Michael Cera, Kristen Stewart, and Maya Erskine. And it's coming out April 11th, 2025. And it's just like a buddy comedy. It's like this Michael Angarano plays a guy who just kind of like it's kind of that like shitty friend, the kind of annoying friend, and then who comes to Michael Cera, and they go on a road trip up to Sacramento, and it's kind of like breaking Michael Cera out of his like I don't know, he's feeling stuck in his life and stuff like that, and so it's just like it's just a weird little buddy comedy. It's that I think one of the quotes I saw on it was like super bad grown up.
Oh,
So I
wow.
was like that was like one of the review quotes. So I mean, take that with with what you will. But it looked pretty funny. So and I'm always good. I'm always down for a good buddy comedy. So
And
but yeah.
Michael Anganaro, he was in Sky High, right? He was the
I recognized him, but I didn't know where I recognized him from. He's been, yeah, Sky High. Yeah.
yeah, he was the kid. He was Kurt Russell's kid in Sky
Yeah.
High.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
was been on Will and Grace. He was apparently in Oppenheimer. Um, so
Who
yeah,
wasn't in Oppenheimer? My
I know,
God.
right? Like
Every white
everybody was in
actor that you
Oppenheimer.
could find. I'm sorry. And when I watched it, I was like, "He's in this movie? Where did y'all find him?" It's so funny when I watched that movie.
Interestingly enough, he was actually, I was just looking at his Wikipedia because I was looking for his filmography and everything. And it says from 2005 to early 2009, Angarano was in a relationship with American actress Kristen Stewart.
Get out.
Yeah, and he's currently in a relationship with Maya Erskine. So he's making a movie with his ex and his
In
current.
his current girl.
Yeah. So him and he and Kristen Stewart must have ended things really nicely to
That's what
be
adults
working on a
do,
movie.
you
Yeah,
know?
and
Well, that's
obviously she's
nice.
since come out as queer, so maybe like that was part of it, and that who knows. So
Yeah, I'll have to check that trailer out, though. That sounds like
yeah,
it's right up my
it
alley.
it looks like a lot of fun, so I'm gonna definitely gonna check that out. So okay, and so what's your other thing this week?
Oh, okay. So, it looks like HBO Max is putting out a horror comedy called The Parenting, and that's also going to be dropping this month. It looks like March 13th. And this one, I don't know. The trailer had me kind of just rolling at it. It involves a young gay couple that is hosting a weekend getaway. They rent a country house with each sets of parents, and things kind of go awry because all three of the couples in this house discover that there is a poltergeist. It's a 400-year-old evil entity in this house. But what makes me laugh about this is the cast because it has Parker Posey, it has Lisa Kudrow, it has Brian Cox, who I just saw in Succession, so I can't imagine him in a horror comedy. And Edie Falco, and those are some of the parents in the house. And the trailer looks hilarious. It's one I don't even know how to describe it. You just have to see the trailer for it to make sense. But just know that there are some demonically possessed, Pomeranian dogs that are in this house.
That's funny. I did see that trailer. I didn't watch it, but I saw it pop up on my feed. But I hadn't watched it yet. So, and I didn't know because I didn't. It didn't look like from the still that was on it. It didn't look like it was a horror comedy type of thing, and so it was just like it was like Edie Falco and somebody else like just look like just seeing
Well,
some of the other bits of it. I'm like, oh, like yeah, yeah, I see this. This one says meeting the parents. It's a necessary
Necessary
evil.
Evil, that's like my favorite.
I was like, okay, all right, I gotta check that out now. So yeah, you brought me two things I didn't even know about.
Good.
So yay, all right.
So now the floor is
Uh,
yours. I have nothing else.
yeah, so I have quite a few more trailers and stuff. So yeah, so there was a second trailer for the movie, the A24 movie Death of a Unicorn, that just came
Oh,
out this
wow.
week. This trailer was not as fun. This trailer was kind of more, I guess it was kind of more story based, and kind of gives you a little bit more information about what the story is. But
Mhm.
the first trailer that we got was actually a lot better and a lot more fun, like based on like like the scenes they showed and everything like that. Doesn't mean that the movie's going to be terrible. It just means that this was a not so great trailer.
Not a great trailer,
So
right?
but yeah, no, I'm still interested in that one. Paul Rudd, uh, oh my god, what's her name? Um, Jenna Ortega, um, Will Poulter, Taya Leone, and Richard Grant,
I hadn't
all in
seen
this
Taya
movie.
Leone do anything in
I
ages.
know. Yeah, no, it's like Parker Posey all of a sudden popping up and everything, which is great because I love Parker Posey.
Yes,
So,
I do too.
Scream 3 fans for life. Um, all right. So, check out that trailer if you want to. It's okay. It's not terrible, but it just definitely wasn't as like fun and as interesting as the first trailer was. So then there's also a new Nicolas Cage movie coming called The Surfer. And this one it looks interesting, but it's also weird. Looks kind of cosmic horror in a way.
I did see that trailer. I don't know how I forgot that one, probably because I was doped up. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, after
on
watching that,
medicine
yeah,
before anybody.
if you saw that while, yeah, if you saw that while you were doped up, I think you probably would have been like, did I imagine that trailer? Because it starts off as like he's this guy and he's taking
Mhm.
his like teenage son to I think it's Australia.
Yeah.
And they're going to go surf, but then they get told by the locals, well, you can't surf here unless you own a house here, unless you live here. And so then so then you think, oh, it's going to be like this whole thing. He's going to buy a house, and then they'll get to surf, and he'll get to teach his kid, and they'll still be dealing with these shitty people off and on, and
Mhm.
everything like that, the locals and everything. But it no, it takes this weird, like cosmic, weird, like angle on it, and I'm like, oh, it was like I was down for the first part of the
Mhm.
movie, and then it switches, and I'm like, oh, I don't know about this. Like, not that I don't like the cosmic horror aspect, but it was just like I really kind of wanted to see that other version of the movie, and maybe it'll like dovetail back into it. But I was just like, oh, I don't know about this because I mean, don't get me wrong, I do love to watch Nicolas Cage go off the rails, but
We all love that.
yeah, I mean, he's made a whole career, a late life career. Well, I guess a whole life career of it. But yeah, I just um not too sure about it. I will have to see if there's a
It
another
kinda makes
trailer about it.
sense, though, that it kinda
Yeah,
goes into that cosmic horror thing, though, because the director, I think it's, I can't remember his first name, but I know last name's Finnegan. He directed Vivarium, which was kind of a surrealist horror film, so
yeah,
that makes perfect. I mean, that seems to be the kind of director that he is, that he has to
yeah,
throw these kind of weird things.
right. All right. Yeah, no, so that was a that it looks mildly interesting. But yeah, I wanted to mention it because it's a um, trailer dropped this
Mhm.
week. Another trailer that dropped is for a Amazon Prime movie coming out soon called Holland with Nicole Kidman.
Mm.
And I believe Angus McFadden. Um, I could be wrong about the name. Um, nope, I was right. Angus McFadden, who was in um, let's see. I could wait. Hold on.
Sounds
Is he the
familiar.
right guy? I could be the wrong guy. Hold on. I never know what I'm talking about. But it's a weird movie. It's set in the town of Holland, Michigan. It's directed by Matthew McFadden. Sorry, Matthew McFadden.
Oh, from
And
Succession. That's another
yeah,
Succession
well,
person.
he's also in Deadpool and
Deadpool and
Wolverine.
Wolverine.
So which you and I will be talking about soon.
Yay.
And then Gael Garcia Bernal is also in it. Um, and so the synopsis is a teacher in a small Midwestern town suspects her husband of living a double life, but things may be worse than she initially imagined.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, so it's possible he's killing people. Oh, it looks like Rachel Sennett's in it as well. Um, so yeah, it looks interesting. Um, but uh, but yeah, it looks kind of creepy. Um, a lot of weird stuff's going on. There's a lot of, because it's in the town of Holland, Michigan. There's like a whole like Dutch like parade thing going
Mhm.
on during it and everything like that. She's dressing up in Dutch clothing and clogs and stuff like that. So it's a whole thing going on. It looks interesting. Kind of reminds me a little bit of maybe like Step for Wives in a little bit. Um
Sounds like a Twin Peaks kind of thing going
yeah,
on
yeah.
there.
So yeah, definitely check out that trailer.
So
It
this
looks
is what,
interesting.
Mimi Cave's second one after Fresh?
Um I don't know. I didn't know what else she had done.
Yeah, Fresh is the only thing I can think of. So yeah, I think this is her second film.
Yes. And Fresh is the one with Sebastian Stan.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was a great movie. Yes, directed by Mimi Cave. So,
I have to
uh,
check this out. I'm looking forward to this.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, definitely. Now that I know who Mimi Cave is, because I didn't recognize the name.
No, that's okay.
I meant to look it up too, but yeah, no. So, yeah, looks really good. Looks nice and creepy. So just like Fresh was. So, so
Yeah, that was definitely creepy. Jeez.
yes. And then I got last trailer I have is for Andor season 2 on Disney Plus, the Star Wars TV show Andor. Um, it's season 2 is coming soon, and it should be a lot of fun. Looks really exciting. I think what they said was like the final 3 episodes of this second season are the 3 days that lead up to Rogue One.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so all like this one's a 12 episode season, just like the first season was, and so like I think each 4 episodes is like I don't know, maybe they're breaking it down into 4 3 episode arcs or
Hmm.
something. Last time it was 3 4 episode arcs, and I mean they all run right after each other, but they all had like separate things going on. But yeah, it's so it should looks pretty good, and we've got the return of Orson Krennic, played by Ben Mendelsohn, and we got K2SO in the trailer, um, and Saw Gerrera's back. It looks like he's got an even bigger role in this season than the last one. So yeah, so it should be pretty cool. So if you like Rogue One and the first season of Andor, I'm sure you guys are gonna love this one as well. So and I did, I liked it a lot. So we'll see how it works. So, uh, but the last thing I have is there's a new episode of Horrific Heroes on the Voices from the Mausoleum YouTube channel
Hmm.
that I just did. It's part 1 of 3, where Steve and I talk about WandaVision. So the first episode covers episodes 1 through 3. So, and that was a lot of fun to kind of go back and revisit and talk about all the crazy shenanigans going on in those first 3 episodes. And then, or the next episode will be out this coming Saturday, and we'll be talking about episodes 4 5 and 6 of
Oh,
WandaVision. So, yeah.
I
So,
definitely got to go check those out.
yeah, it's part of a whole backwards series we're doing where we did Agatha all along first, then Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and now we're doing WandaVision. So, so it's been a lot of fun. We just kind of did it weirdly out of order, but yeah, go check out that series. We got a few other episodes on other stuff that's um, uh, horror in sci-fi, fantasy, and comic book realm. We've been doing a lot of comic book stuff, but we're gonna get back into doing some other non-comic book related things. But yeah, so keep checking it out. Give it a watch, give it a like, subscribe, whatever, do all that good stuff. So, but before we move on to the rest of the show, why don't you let everyone know what you've got going on your show this week?
All right. Well, since we are now officially in the month of March and it's Women's History Month, I decided to do Women in Horror. So, my series of films, I'm going to really be focusing on female directors and either final girls or female villains. So, the very
Mm.
first one I'm going to talk about is going to be Blink Twice because I realized I have not
Oh,
talked about this film since it's been out. And it's directed obviously by Zoe Kravitz,
yeah.
and there are a lot of things that I want to unpack about this movie. So
This one's kind of a divisive movie.
it's
So,
hard. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I get it. I totally get it, but I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it a lot.
Mhm.
So, and for all the right reasons too. And so,
Yeah.
because I mean, I know you're not going to spoil it, you know, on your show
No.
or anything like that, but I'll just say right here, I love that ending.
Mhm.
I love that ending. It wasn't the ending that you would expect, but it was the ending that you kind of like needed after all, like when it
I
came down to
agree
it.
with you. Yes.
So, so if anybody's seen that, yeah, you'll know what we're talking about. If you haven't, watch the movie because it's really good, and then go listen to her episode because it's awesome.
Oh,
So,
thanks.
yeah, you always make it good episodes, even if I'm not caught up on them yet. I'm working on it. I'm working
It's
on
okay. They're not going
it.
anywhere. They're right
I
there.
know the same with mine. So, all right, yeah, no, that sounds awesome. I can't wait to check that out and check out all the other episodes going on your show this week or this month. So. All right. Well, that's all we have for this week. Stay on until after the short break, and I'll be talking to Ashley Thomas about the Marvels. On today's episode, we're jumping back into the MCU and we're talking about the Marvels with Ashley Thomas. Ashley is a staff writer for fangirlish.com and host of several podcasts, including Podcast 616, We Are Starfleet, and Mission Log Genealogy. Welcome back to the show, Ashley.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's always good to have you on, and it's going to be a fun time because you've seen the Marvels a lot.
Yes, actually,
I
I
think you've seen it
have.
more times in the theater than I've seen combined alone. So
Yeah, I did, in fact, see the Marvels 8 times in the
eight times.
theater.
Wow.
8 times,
I
yeah.
think I've only seen the movie maybe four times now. So,
Mm,
but it definitely is. I will say it's probably one of my favorites. It's
yeah.
just a lot of fun. So,
It really is. It really is. I'm looking forward to talking to you about it today.
yeah. So yeah, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Obviously, The Marvels is one of the most recent, movies. We're just plodding along here. We're getting towards the getting caught up. This last month of Marvel episodes that I'm going to be doing will get us pretty much caught up. I believe that at the end of this, let me look real quick. Yeah, at the end of this little batch here, we will be caught up to Captain America: Brave New World. So I've just got a few more, and then I'm all caught up. But yeah, so this one is a lot of fun. It kind of like ties up, not ties up, but it kind of follows up on some stuff. Obviously follows up on Carol's adventures as Captain Marvel, but it picks up threads from the Miss Marvel TV show and picks up the Monica Rambeau storyline from WandaVision as well. So it's kind of a neat joining of all the Marvel girls in a way. The Marvel ladies as they are. And it's just I don't know. This one was very heavily maligned when it came out, which I never understood. It's a very fun movie. It doesn't it while it takes itself seriously, it has fun while doing so. And I think it was most of the malignment in from everybody. It was just that it was a woman-led movie, and there's a very strong misogynistic loud voice out there who doesn't like women for some reason. um doesn't like watching women on screen. I think it's just because Miss Marvel could kick everybody's ass, or not Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, but Miss Marvel has
Well,
could
yeah, say
stand on her
yeah.
own as well.
Yeah.
So they all three of them are very powerful in their own right, and joining together, man, I was so excited. The trailers for this, just watching the trailers for this, got me so hyped, and the movie did not let me down at all. So um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just it's again, I will continue to say this. It's a lot of fun. It's just that's the ultimate thing that comes to it with me is that it's just a fun movie. It's got serious stakes in it, but as also at the same time, we get, Nick Fury's in this, and it's a more playful, more um, fun version of him than we've ever gotten before. He's not taking himself super seriously, and I know that actually kind of bothered people, and we'll get into that later. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like you say, you saw this 8 times in the theater, but what is your overall uh thoughts on this movie itself?
I don't think I can say it better than what my friend and 616 guest podcast 616 guest Kalechi Ahenyalo said to me when she and I were talking about it offline. Uh we She said, because I kept talking about how much I loved it and I'd seen it several times at that point, and she's like, "You know what? The Marvels is your Barbie." And I thought about it for a second, and you're exactly right. I loved Barbie. I thought Barbie was amazing. I thought the things that Barbie had to say were wonderful and important and good and needed to be said. The reason the Marvels worked for me on that same level, but in a completely different way, is I when I wrote about the film on Fangirlish, I wrote about it as the Marvels is Barbie for girls who played with action figures, and that was me. Um, I, I have come to grips with the fact that 99% of my interests make me the only woman in the room. I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me anymore. But on some level, it still makes me feel kind of lonely.
Right.
And I felt a lot less lonely when I watched the Marvels. During the scene where they're practicing the switching, and you have the montage, and Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys is playing, and they're just goofing around in their pajamas. Like, I felt like I got invited to a sleepover with my three of my favorite superheroes, and I
Right.
had no idea how much I needed that. I'm almost 40, and I'm watching this, and I'm like, I feel like, little 6-year-old me, who's the only girl she knows reading comic books, got invited to a sleepover with three of her favorite superheroes, and it's made to feel you're okay. Uh, it was something I didn't know that I needed until I
Right.
saw it. And I love it so much for that reason.
And I love that. Like, I think that's what's important, to take away from this is that, look, every Marvel movie isn't going to work for everybody, and I get that. There are some people who have legitimate, um, I wouldn't say issues, but they have legitimate criticisms for it that are personal to them. If they didn't care for it because it just didn't connect with them, that's fine. I get that. Not everything connects with me as well, but to a lot of the complaints were just bull, and I can dismiss most of that away. There, anybody who says the movie wasn't well made or was lacking, it just I I I I don't think the movie's not well made. I think it's very well made. I can understand the lacking only in terms of the villain,
Yeah.
the villain part of this, and we'll get into it a little bit later. But the villain part of it, yeah, sure, that's lacking. But I don't think that's the thrust of the movie. The main part of the movie is the Marvels coming together and their interactions with each other. And I think that when you take away that aspect of it, and you try to dismiss the movie as a whole because you just didn't care for the villain, sure, I get that, but that's not what the movie was talking about. That's not what the movie was focused on. The villain was just the part of the plot that brought them together, and I think that when you realize that, I think that makes the movie stronger in a way. Um,
Yeah.
so, and I love that you get something out of it that connected to you personally in a way that isn't going to connect with everybody. and I think that's what's interesting about these movies in general is, yes, obviously, Marvel, Disney, and everybody want to make these big, huge money making movies and stuff like that, but not all of them are going to be that. And I think that even Marvel understands that sometimes these movies aren't going to be the big, giant in-game level movies, and sometimes they need to be smaller, and more, I don't know, more personal in a way. And I think that's what the Marvels does well, is it brings it more personal, and it
Yeah.
makes those connections between all three of these women very strong. And I love that they find this, obviously Carol and Monica have already a built-in relationship, but that relationship was fractured, and they need to rebuild that relationship. And that montage helps do that. And I love that part of the movie too, because it really does bring them back together in a way um, that couldn't have been done otherwise, I don't think. So I love that you found that connection with that. And it just proves that this movie is better in ways than a lot of other people might think it is. And that's just because they don't see it that way. And that's fine. Again, you don't have to like everything.
Right.
I don't love everything of the MCU as it is. So yeah, go ahead.
No, and there's so many different themes to unpack in the film as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that, yeah, it's fun, it's funny, it's lighthearted, uh, but at the same time, like it's there's these deeper themes of family, be they biological or chosen.
Hmm.
There are, I mean, I would argue there's a whole prodigal son metaphor going on here.
Yeah.
Even to the point where in the opening, Fury calls Carol prodigal daughter of the Milky Way.
Yeah.
Uh, there's that idea going on. Uh, there is
Well, there's
this
the idea
whole,
of like consequences of your actions.
yeah, yeah,
Like
and
like
go
the
ahead.
deep. Well, I'm just riffing on what you were saying. Just
Yeah,
like just the things um that Carol does because she thinks it's right leads to problems that come back to haunt her later. So
sure.
you know,
Yeah. Um, and then also there's this idea of fandom, and what does it mean to meet
yeah,
your heroes, and what does it mean to be a hero?
yeah,
Can you be a hero even if you mess up? I
yeah,
there's so much going on here, and it gets derided for being too silly. And like, not every movie is in game. Y'all need to calm down. Um,
yeah.
but it's wonderful on so many different levels, and I mean, I don't know how long you want to talk today, Rob, but buckle up, grab a snack.
Right.
We might be here for a while, because this is a movie that, if you've not seen it, folks, we're gonna get into spoiler territory. Please go watch it.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's worth your time. It's an hour 45. Most folks complain about all these Marvel movies. No Marvel
Right.
movie needs to be 2.5, 3 hours long. I was like, okay, this is an hour 45. What do you want?
I could have done with the 2.5 hour long movie with this one
Seriously, yeah, like
too,
give it another 20 minutes. I would have been okay with that,
Yeah. But
I'm
but it's
yeah,
great for what it is. It's nice and tight. It does what everything it needs to do, and doesn't overstay its welcome.
hmm,
Sure, I would have loved more, but I don't think we needed more. I think it does what it does well. And I think that's really has a lot to do with Nia DaCosta. And her direction in this movie is fabulous.
agree.
She was I think that's what's interesting about Marvel is they continue to choose um directors, and like people always complain about how Marvel movies always seem to be very samey. They're very, all the movies cookie cutter. And I like, they're not. Like, the people who watch these and say that are obviously not paying attention to these movies
Mm.
at all. They see them that way, and that's how they go to them. That you come to them with these preconceived notions. That's exactly how you're going to continue to see them. But if you see these movies as, yes, they are a huge blockbuster movie making machine, but they're choosing independent directors. Now, I will I will agree. Part of that is because they choose unknown independent directors, because those independent directors are still learning, still new. So Kevin Feige can kind of push them to do the things he wants. I'm sure that's part of it. But I also think that there's a large part of it that is they want those independent voices. They want these people to come in, give these movies ideas and shapes that they otherwise wouldn't. And because I mean that's where you come into it, where you look at something like the DCU, where they've done that cookie cutter formula and it didn't work for them. Whereas Marvel, the MCU, you can argue it doesn't work, but it does. You still have these independent voices coming in and doing things that are fun and interesting in ways that if you got um these they tried that in the beginning. They got Kenneth Branagh and blockbuster directors in the beginning, and it didn't always work out for them. And so I think that they kind of reshifted and refocused, and they were like, let's get these smaller voices in to kind of shape these characters and actually shape character rather than, because like the big event stuff, like whatever the big events in the movies are, that's easy to do. But shaping the characters themselves, you need good solid writers who can um navigate these voices and create compelling characters that make you want to watch these rather than just these basic archetypes. And that's what I think Nia DaCosta, because she's a co-writer on the movie as well,
Right.
she helped shape these characters into ways that worked really well. Um, so I think that was important, getting her on it, and she does such a good job at it.
She's great, and I was really excited to hear that she was attached to this film because I loved what she did with Candyman 2021.
Absolutely, yeah,
Oh my gosh, what a
yeah,
brilliant film. I need to watch that again.
yes,
My goodness. But yeah, I words are hard because I have
yeah.
loved this movie so much and I have so many feels about it. So, you want to give me some direction here so I know which direction to fangirl, Rob? Because, otherwise I'll just get on my soapbox and
Yeah.
we're gonna be dead.
Well, I mean, let's talk about Carol herself. I mean,
Sure.
she's post Endgame. This is our first look at her post Endgame. Well, I mean, we get a little in credit sequence in
Shang-Chi.
what's it called, Shang-Chi.
Hmm.
But this is our first full look at her. She's
Right.
still out doing her stuff. She's obviously connected to Fury a lot better post Endgame now.
Mm.
So they talking because now he's got Saber, and so he's out there like, hey, calls her up to have her investigate some stuff. And I love that they have that connection. That sure, they probably don't talk a lot, but they obviously talk once in a while, and they have this respect for each other. And this definitely follows up on this movie came out after Secret Invasion and is set after Secret Invasion, and we'll get back more to Fury in a minute. But like, Fury's different after this, and like people are like, oh, how can Fury be so different after Secret Invasion? Look, it's different writers, it's a different setting, it's a different story. Things are going to be different. You kind of got to roll with it because that's kind of how it is when new writers come on, or a character guest stars in a different issue of a comic book like that's not their own. They're going to be written a little different. And I think that's what's great is you get different facets of different characters depending on the stuff. So, and
Mm.
we'll get back to that. But Carol being out there just kind of doing her thing, navigating the universe with Goose and everything. I love that. It was a great fun look at
Mhm.
um, who she is now. You know, although, she's obviously lonely. She's out there on her own doing her thing. She doesn't have anybody really out there with her.
Right.
And that sets up exactly everything that comes later in the movie. And I love that this setup just kind of reintroduces us to who Carol is nicely and easily right from the beginning.
Right. Yeah. How are you doing? Thriving. Are you, Carol? Really? Really? Yeah, the weight of overwhelming loneliness that you
Yeah.
get from Carol in those opening sequences where, yeah, she's hanging out in her little spaceship with her cat. And as a fellow cat lady, I can I can relate. But it's so challenging to be like that. And I think kind of the encapsulation of that feeling that she's facing is what Valkyrie says to her is you can stand tall without standing alone.
Right.
And the feeling that this is all on my shoulders. I can't burden anybody else with my problems or the thing that I am dealing with because it's not theirs to deal with, it's mine. Um, you know, just feeling the weight of all of that, having felt weight like that in my own life, I I can't imagine
Right.
like facing that alone, especially like up in space. And I'm an extrovert, and like the only person I have to hang out with is my cat. And yeah, a Goose is amazing. No shade on Goose. Goose isn't another human though.
Right.
It's different. So man,
Well, and it's interesting too, because you find out why pretty quickly why
right.
she is like that, why she has isolated herself, like even from Maria and Monica, who, have been waiting for her to come back to Earth and to see them.
Hmm.
Um, you know, she's spent the last 30 years dealing with regret
Hmm.
um and guilt over something that she did that caused um damage to other people.
Yeah.
And is that necessarily her fault? It could be argued yes, it could be argued no. The consequences of her action led to other people doing dumb stuff. And so you find this out a little bit later, but like, and that's the problem that I have with that sequence later is just like, and not a problem, is like, it's a I don't feel like she needs to live with that regret anymore.
Mm.
um One, she lived with it long enough, and two, not all of that was her fault. um we'll get into it. But I love that, just in that little bit, without even knowing a lot of that stuff, you just feel that. Like, and that just, one, it's the writing, and two, it's the acting by um Brie Larson is just, it's so good. Like, she carries that weight so well without telling you everything all at once. And it's just that isolation, that regret and everything else is just it- like, that's what frustrates me when people talk about how she's not a good actress and she's blah blah blah, she's misplaced in the MCU. She is perfect as Carol. If
Right.
anybody's read the comic books, you'll know that it's very similar to the character in the comics.
Yeah.
So she does so good in this. And so yeah, I love that sequence. Just nice and easy setup for who she is now, and why she hasn't been around. So but then we get the sequence of Monica. After that bit, we finally catch up with Monica. She's working with Fury on Saber and stuff like that. And we finally get a little bit of connection between her and Carol, even though it's a little bit scrambled there. They both are just like, oh no, wait, I don't want to talk to her just yet, because they've had 30 years of distance between each other, and that, all that anticipation and everything kind of clouds over every bit of that.
Yeah, yeah, that was really interesting just to watch them um interact, and it's, there's definite tension there.
Yeah.
There's the awkwardness of, you abandoned me.
Yeah.
And whether it was, it wasn't intentional, and then, you find out later why,
Right.
but you get this opportunity to see two adults, uh, express emotion in a healthy way, and to work
Yeah.
out conflict in a healthy way, especially when, one of those adults is your auntie,
Yeah.
for all intents and purposes, uh she's the person that was your hero, and then, hey, you disappointed me. And so, again, there's this underlying theme of, like, heroism and hero worship and fandom,
Right.
which, you got, most explicitly from Kamala,
Right.
but you also have some of that too from Monica, and I not quite thought about it in those terms, but that's
Yeah.
exactly who Carol was to Monica when she was a little girl.
Yeah. I mean, before Carol became Captain Marvel, even she was a hero to her. And then after she became Captain Marvel, like she became even more of a hero.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that like that expectant, especially when it's somebody who's so close to you,
Mm,
who is, effectively an aunt in a lot of ways. She calls her Aunt Carol.
hmm
That, there's that, yeah, there's a lot of things that need to be said that can't be said over the radio, like she says, this is not how I want to, talk to her. It's
Yeah.
like you need to talk to her face to face and to kind of, get those feelings resolved.
Yeah.
And I love that they get to do that later. So,
Yeah.
um,
Oh, that's good.
yeah. But yeah, let's talk Kamala. I love the Miss Marvel series.
Me
So
too.
it's great getting to get her back into the MCU, and she is so much fun. Amon Vellani is,
Absolute gift.
oh, she's so like, she needs to be utilized more. Because she
Like,
is
yeah.
such a huge fan of Marvel. And to not have her be a big part of the, I mean, in so much so that she's been writing Miss Marvel comic books. She literally gets to write her own approved fan fiction now.
Her
Um,
Miss Marvel comic is fantastic, by the
I
way.
need to read it.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love that she's getting to write for her character now, and she's getting to, like, build on what she already has done in the MCU in the actual Marvel comics. So I love that she gets to do that. But yeah, having her back in this and just proving herself to just be the same character. I love that they didn't change her character in any way. She's just still the awesome, like, goofy fangirl that she was. But she also, like, gets to prove herself several times with her powers and really kick some ass. Like,
Yeah.
even more so than she did in the Miss Marvel show. I mean, she holds her own with both Carol and Monica in those fight scenes, and I love that so much that she doesn't back down, and she's very much the hero that um, she should be, and I love that aspect of her, and I love the fangirl stuff too. So it's a lot
Yeah.
of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing I mentioned this when we talked Miss Marvel here on your show, is that I love Kamala's daydreams, because that's
Yeah,
what it looks like inside of my head. And I love how hard she fangirls over Miss Marvel, and her getting to not only interact but really become a coworker, and
right.
a friend of her hero. I mean, gosh, isn't that what we all want? We
Right.
we all want our heroes to like and approve of us and be our friends. And yeah, that's everything I you know, I know I've ever wanted. Uh and just her whole like, oh, we're I could give her this letter I wrote her and we could go to lunch. And I was like, oh, buddy. Oh, I feel all of that so
Yeah.
hard.
Oh, all the awkwardness and everything like that, all
Oh,
that cringe you're feeling. Oh, it's
it,
like, oh no. Yeah.
I was like, oh no, but oh yes, I totally get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, it was so wonderful. Just to watch all of that. Um,
And I
yeah,
think we've all done that.
yeah.
Anytime anybody has met like a hero of theirs, somebody that they've looked up to or whatever like that, you've always had that fan moment too, where you're just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, that was so cringe. Like like it's the most awkward. But I love that she gets to live in it too, because she doesn't get to walk away in
Right.
those moments either. She's got to live with that cringe and just move on from it and just go, look, yeah, that was a little weird, but let's move on. And, gets to prove herself and gets to become, and Carol accepts it too. Like Carol's like, sure, it's awkward and weird and everything, but Carol's just like, look, and this is ultimately like what is great about one, Aman Vellani, and then two, about Kamala Khan herself, is that
Mm-hmm.
she ultimately wins you over.
Right.
No matter how awkward and weird and goofy she is and everything, she's still at heart a good person, a good hero, and that will always win you over in the end. And it's, there's that old adage of never meet your heroes, but this, 100% proves that wrong, because, one, Carol's not a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
And even when they find out about what Carol did, like that, sure, they're like, okay, that sucks, but you're still human and we still love you. And I love that aspect of it, because that is kind of the most human thing to do, is
Right.
to, forgive and, um, help move on, forgive and heal. Um, and that's what a lot of this movie is about, especially for Carol, but also for all of them in a way, is that, that forgiveness and that healing that they all need. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I love that plays a huge role, especially between Carol and Monica. So it's just I love every bit of it. I love Kamala Khan just being goofy throughout the whole thing and just fangirling, even towards the end, like just that fangirling the whole time, and getting to prove herself as well. So
Yeah.
but yeah, we get Kamala's family in this a little bit, which was fun to see them a little bit more. Um, and Fury, like I said, Fury's definitely a little bit more playful, a little bit more unserious. But I still don't think it takes away from who he is as a character. Um, it's a different setting, it's different people, it's different things. Like, it very much feels like the Fury that was in the first Captain Marvel movie, um where he was a little bit more playful, and Carol brings something out in him that nobody else does. I
Mm.
feel like there's a connection between them that that is just it just I don't know, it just works so well, and I love that he gets to play with that character a bit more.
Well, and you some of that comes through in because of that's his real life relationship with Brie Larson is they're
You're right, they're
buddies.
really good friends. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're buddy buddy and you know they've I can't remember who said which. One of them called the other their favorite coworker. And uh they get along so well and Sam is such like an ally for women.
Yes.
Uh and you just watch him be so supportive and he's not shy about putting misogynists in their place.
Hmm.
And so, And sometimes the only person a misogynist is going to listen to is a man. So
Yeah.
men, please speak up for, you know, on behalf of the ladies in your life. Um, because that's the sad reality is, the thing that will change their mind is a man's opinion. Anyway,
No, I agree
the
with you completely.
yeah, yeah, it's frustrating, but hey, we'll work on that.
Exactly.
Anyway, uh yeah, but that I think that's some of that is reflective of their real life relationship. And I mean, you can really say that too for these ladies as well, is they're all like buddies off screen as well. Not yeah, they really bonded doing this film, and uh I that dynamic really shines through, and gosh, I love all of this so much. I'm having a moment. Having a moment. It's okay.
So Brie Larson says Samuel L. Jackson is just my favorite, and I'm his second favorite. He's like, of course, anything for my second favorite co-star. And I was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Who's your first? And he was like, me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, no, I love that they have such a great relationship. And he, like, yeah, 100%, he is like so pro woman, so pro, um, just everything about that. Like, if you've ever known anything about Samuel L. Jackson, is that he is such an, like, he comes across as this like hard dude and everything. But like from everything I've ever read, he's the most playful, most generous person ever in
Mm.
terms of his friendship and everything. It's why he gets to be in some of the biggest blockbuster things and still works with people like Quentin Tarantino and everything else is because that's who he is as a person. He like you look at his filmography as well. He does movies because he likes to do movies. He doesn't care about the awards or anything else like that. Like he's never been I mean or he's rarely been nominated for any kind of like big acting award because he's not there for the awards. He's there to make movies and to do projects that are fun for him. Because that should be what it's about.
Mhm.
Is just like, why would you be working for awards? Work for, like, don't get me wrong, work for the money. I'm sure the money's great for him. But also work for the passion of it. When you're making movies and stuff like that, that's what you should be doing anyway. Sure, if you've got a passion for some kind of project that gets you an award, great. But and he's done smaller, more independent, more dramatic, things that could probably earn him awards and stuff like that. But again, that's not what he goes for. He goes because it's an interesting project. And I love that about him. So I love that he gets to play with this character and have fun with it in different ways. And this just shows how much fun he has with the character, how much he enjoys still playing the character after all these years. I mean, because he first started playing Nick Fury in the first Iron Man.
Mm.
So it's been like what 17 years now, and he's still going with it. I'm sure he's gonna pop up in something else as Nick Fury eventually as well. But um, you know, I loved him in this movie. I loved the interactions that he had with both Carol and Monica and with Kamala. Um, Kamala. And so um it's just all of that just shows how good of a character one that Fury is, and just two how good of an actor Sam Jackson is, and how much fun he was having with all of this. And the direction by Nia DaCosta again is just
Mhm.
like it's on point for everything. It's just obviously this was a fun movie to work on for everybody involved. Um, and it still does have some serious themes to it as well. Let's go ahead and get into that.
Sure.
We've got this character of Darben, who is the new leader of the Kree, following a bunch of Civil War activity between people on the planet after the assassination of the Supreme Intelligence, after the events of Captain Marvel. Is Carol went back to Hala, the Kree homeworld, and destroyed the Supreme Intelligence, and that left a power vacuum. And so then a bunch of the people that were left decided to fight amongst themselves to figure out who's now going to lead the Kree, and in the process destroyed their planet. And so now Darben, in desperation, is now having to figure out a way to save her planet because the air is toxic. There's no water on the planet, and the sun is dying. So now she's got to figure out a way to do that. And in doing so, she finds one of the what we find out is a quantum band, which has a big history in the comic books as well. And so we so she uses those to rip stargates open that will suck resources from other planets back to Hala, and which sets up the big conflict for everything, because Carol's dealing with the fact that she feels like it's her fault, and they never. I mean, they kind of address it, but they never really address it in the way that it's sure it's her fault that she killed the Supreme Intelligence and created that power vacuum, but everything that happened after that moment is no longer her fault. Everything that happened in consequence of that is not necessarily her fault. You know what I mean? Like, she set it
Yeah.
up, but how they dealt with it afterward was on them.
Mm.
And I feel like that was something that kind of wasn't resolved in as well in the movie, to kind of get her past that. But I think she realizes that on her own, is that, like, I wasn't the cause of all this.
Right.
I did the one thing that I felt I needed to do, and beyond that, that was on everybody else that came after me. So,
Right.
but this is definitely where the villain aspect is a little lacking, and Marvel does have this kind of problem. But I think it's, again, something that I mentioned earlier, is that by and large, if you've got a weak villain like this, that it's because the villain and their what's going on is only a it's a driving force for the rest of what's going on in the movie, the character development for the main characters. And that's what we should be focusing on, is what's really going on between Carol, Monica, and Kamala, rather than, oh, how cool is the villain. So
Right.
I think in this instance that's proven true, is that this villain might be a little lacking, but it's because it wasn't necessary for them to be like this really great villain.
And I
um
and I think
yeah.
what Zoe Ashton does get to do, she does very well with.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, I don't want to dismiss her performance,
Yeah.
because her performance is great.
Yeah.
She's very good at doing what she does, but yeah, that's not on her at
Yeah.
all. That's the story itself. And I don't even think the story itself is undercutting her. It's just she's there to serve that plot. And that's
Right.
it's not the plot. Again, I don't think that is in any way a weakness for the plot or like anything. It's just it's not an end game. Like, I think that's the
Right.
problems, that everybody thinks everything has to be some extinction level event. And I mean,
Right.
to an extent it is for Hala, but
Right.
but it doesn't have to be this big huge villain that like needs to chew the scenery and everything all the time either. So I mean, because the bulk of this movie really isn't about that. And so I think that's what's it's about Carol and Monica and
Hmm.
Kamala being this team, and like coming together for that, and growing Captain Marvel herself into somebody different than she has been for the last 30 plus years.
Right. Well, and just to comment a little further on Zoe Ashton as
Yeah,
Dar-Benn,
definitely.
she I think what Kamala says about her in the film, where she's trying to explain who she's like, this beautiful and terrifying woman. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly who she is. She's beautiful and she's terrifying. I love it. I love it. One, that was really funny. But two, having seen the movie so many times and just
Yeah,
watching the fight sequences over and over again, one, those fight sequences are freaking phenomenal.
they're
Like,
so good.
they're
Yeah.
so, so good, so well choreographed. But also like in the scene where uh Captain Marvel is trying to wrestle the bangle from Darbin on Aladna,
Yes.
and Captain Marvel thinks she's starting to gain the upper hand, and Darbin's like, "Oh no!" and she's just grinning, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like she's just like, oh, it's like you're just encapsulated, like entranced
Right.
because Zoe Ashton is such a beautiful woman, and then also like, oh my gosh, she's going to freaking murder me,
Right.
like this is it was like those dichotomy of those two things make her even more terrifying because we think, oh, if something is evil or bad it should be ugly, and she
Right.
is not. So and you start to you understand where she's coming from even by the end, like
No.
you don't agree with her methods,
Right.
but you see how she got there and how
Right.
she is just trying to save her planet.
Yeah, and I think that's what's interesting about her. She falls into that sympathetic villain camp that people like Killmonger and Namor and some of these other characters over the years have been, is that you understand where they're coming from, even if you don't agree with their methods. And I think that that's even what happens with Carol and them too, is like they understand where she's coming from.
Yeah,
They don't want Hala to die. They don't agree with her methods of basically potentially destroying the universe in the process and
right,
destroying other people who didn't sign up for this either.
right.
So, that's ultimately like, and I think that's where that guilt comes in because uh because of Tarnax being um you destroyed because of Darbin's actions and stuff like that. Carol feels the guilt because she helped get the scrolls to Tarnax during her time of trying to resettle the scrolls. That it's just I get that that's that part of that guilt. But like a lot of that also doesn't have anything to do with her, like in terms of Darbin's actions.
Mhm.
So like Darbin could have gone around and figured something out that was better, you know, maybe resettle somewhere else for her. It's like
Right.
I sure Hala, nobody wants to move away from their planet, but if it's dying, what can you do?
Sure.
And so I think that that's it definitely sets up a lot of moral um issues in this that you have to wrestle with.
Right.
And I love that that's an aspect of it. Amongst all of this, there is a serious story in here amongst all the fun that we're having.
Hmm.
But it's definitely something that I think is great about the movie, that Carol wrestles with this guilt and ultimately comes through it um in the end. So
Yeah. I have to wonder if you could argue that this is some sort of metaphor for, um, I mean, just to not to put too fine a point on it, but like uh, Carol in some way being a representation of being a white savior,
mm,
and then realizing, oh, that wasn't what was needed here,
yeah,
and then she's able to come up with a solution through working with people who are not white.
yeah,
Um,
that
you
could
know,
be.
well,
Yeah,
and well, then because look at it, Monica is the one who suggests, yeah, she should make this right, and she
right,
can. Here's how. And
right,
it wasn't anything that Carol had ever thought of before because she was so lost in her own despair of how badly she had messed up.
right. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way, but like, yeah, definitely like her own, guilt over that. And yeah, definitely there's that
Hmm.
aspect of it that could be in there, is that white guilt of her doing something that, one, I mean, I get where Carol's coming from. I
Hmm.
mean, destroying the Supreme Intelligence,
Yeah.
in that way, because the Supreme Intelligence was the thing that messed her up.
Yeah.
And so you can understand it from that thing. But again, the actions that happen afterward, not her fault, but you can see where that would be misconstrued as being because that set off everything else. Sure, her actions caused everything else in a way to happen for whatever reasons. But yeah, no, I love that aspect of it, like you said, that it took someone of color to say, look, you messed up. This isn't necessarily all your fault, but you have the power and the ability to fix this.
Mm.
And to force her to think of something in a different way than she'd ever thought of. And yeah, no, I love that aspect of it jumps in
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah.
good call.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It was something that occurred to me. I kind of thought about it, but watching it again today is just like, hey, yeah, that you could read it that way.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I think that's what's interesting too about having Nia DaCosta as a co-writer and the director as well, because you have a
Mm.
person of color, someone who's black, who is leading this time.
Yep.
And I love that you get that diversity in there as well. Um, of just the who's behind the camera and then also who's in front of the camera. The Carol is joined by, her quote unquote niece and her best fan ever. Um and who are people of color. And I love that we get that aspect of it, that it's not just, because look, the MCU is kind of heavily white.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, everybody's pretty white. Or if they're not, then they're odd colors, like they're green. So it's great that we get characters like Black Panther and Monica and Kamala and stuff like that. That we get um, these characters who are high profile in these movies, and um, that's part of what makes this movie really good as well. Is you getting these different perspectives, and I mean, when you really come down to it, like out of all of like the main like hero cast and everything like that, Carol's the only white person. Like
Mm.
everybody else is a person of color. Kamala and her family, Monica, Fury, even some of the other Saber people who you see in there are non-white people.
Yeah.
So I love that. And Darben is obviously played by a person of color. So I love that whole aspect of it, that they just kind of went, you know what, let's just change this up and kind of, sure, it's still Carol, but it really is. And that's what's even better about it. Sure, it's a sequel to Captain Marvel, but it really is the Marvels. It's a combined movie about all of them. And I love um that Brie Larson, from everything that I've seen and read and everything like that, she was on board from the very beginning, had no problems with sharing
Mm-hmm.
the spotlight in any of this. And that just that warms my heart so much. I just love Brie Larson. I think she's
I do
a great
too.
actress and a person and everything. And
Yeah.
I hate how much crap has come her way from being in the MCU. I just hate the shitty fans out there.
Well,
So
and the uh, Fury says it in there. No one cares more than Captain Marvel, and no one
yes,
gets more
more
grief for
crap
it.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that that's
There's a
as
little
much
meta
about
moment there.
Brie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's as much about Brie as it is about Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
It's because Brie cares about who she's making movies for.
Yeah. She does. Yeah.
Several what was it, like 2015, 2016? She got a lot of garbage for even before she did Captain Marvel, like for saying like I don't make movies for you. I make movies for women.
Right.
Um and people are like, rah, 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 why you would do that? But like, she's not saying that you can't go watch her movies or that you shouldn't.
Right. Yeah.
She's saying that you may not be the target audience.
Right.
And
Well, and yeah, no, and unfortunately, there's a large contingent of white men out there who have been the target audience for so long that anything that comes out of their like that's not specifically towards them, they're just going to hate no matter what. And
Right.
so it's ridiculous. It's stupid, you know.
Yeah.
And I just that I don't know. It's just too much. But that's what I love about this movie is it's unapologetic about what it is. It's like
Yeah.
it's three women, and it's just a lot of fun. So and I love all the little bits and pieces. I love when they go to Aladna and they have the little singing bit,
Oh my
and I
gosh.
hate, and look, I don't hate musicals, but I don't love musicals. And so I just, even though I don't care for them, it's still a fun part because it's so silly and goofy, and it's so like I love that they can do stuff, and that's what makes Marvel so fun is that you can have these different tones and these different moments and everything like that and still have so much fun with them.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
One of the things I wrote about on Fangirlish in regards to the Marvels is that this is a movie where the women were allowed to be women.
right. Yes, absolutely.
And I have seen that so rarely in my sci-fi that when it does happen, I I I it triggers something in me that I didn't know I needed. Like I got a couple of episodes of Star Trek like that in Strange New Worlds this past year. And I well, I guess now a year and a half. In Strange New Worlds season 2, I got at least one episode where uh there was effectively like a rom-com plot, but also it was with a heavy dose of we could die sci-fi, and I'm like my feels, I didn't know I needed this. And the same thing happened when I watched the Marvels, is like these were women superheroes who were allowed to act within their own power. They weren't doing this in response to anything a man did.
Right.
They weren't trying to win the affections of some guy. And you know, they were just getting to be themselves. They're getting to play. They're getting to be strong and bold and courageous and powerful, but also to have emotions and to shed a tear, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had no idea how much I needed that until I saw it.
Well, and that's what makes it really great too, is that even though Fury is a major part of this, he sits a lot of it out. He's on the sidelines.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what's going on half the time, and he's just letting Captain Marvel and Monica and Kamala take it all, because he trusts in them to do what they need to do. And I love that aspect of it too, is because it's just Fury to a T, is that at least this version of Fury is that, he doesn't have all the answers, he doesn't have all the stuff, so he trusts in those who do, who can. And and I love that's what this movie does too. They don't
Mm,
try to put Fury out there and try to be like, oh, Fury will try to figure out a way. Fury's just out there trying to keep Kamala's parents safe
right.
most of the time,
Yeah,
and
basically.
yeah, and dealing with the Flirkin issue in Saber and everything, which is great.
Oh, I loved it.
Um, yeah, and it's just there's so much that's so fun and interesting about this movie that it just like if anybody listening to this, if you've not seen the movie, which you should see the movie before this, if you've not seen the movie, please go see the movie. And if you haven't seen it in a while, go back and rewatch it because it's a lot of fun. And it says a lot without saying a lot. And that's what's really great about it too, is it straddles that line of giving you everything you didn't think you needed, but doing it well and without hitting you over the head with that all of it as well.
Mm,
Um, and that's the thing, like you said, when you get to the slumber party bit and everything like that, they're having these moments where they're connecting. They're like Monica and Carol are reconnecting, and Kamala is just there, fangirling over it all and trying to give Monica a code name, and all of that is just so much fun because it's just people connecting and having a lot of fun together, um, figuring out what they need to figure out in those moments, and like you don't. I love how human and how normal it is, while at the same
yeah.
time not being normal at all.
Yeah.
Um, and it just that's what is really fun about the movie too, is it brings Carol back.
Yeah.
And by the end of that, we do have Carol back. Carol returns to Earth after everything,
Hmm.
and she's making Earth her home again. And I love that that's part of what happens here. And
Hmm.
I was just talking to Hugh over on podcast 616, which you co-host, but you weren't able to make that one.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Had a sick
but
day yesterday, unfortunately.
yeah, by the time you guys hear this episode, the podcast 616 episode is out. It's about Captain America: Brave New World, and we talk about who the potential Avengers are. I forgot about Carol being on Earth.
Yep.
So she's definitely got to be part of the Avengers that comes to be
Mm.
in the future. Um, so yeah, no, I love that. That's where we kind of end things. Is that once everything's resolved, that Carol ends up back on Earth and back embracing like her life and humanity again.
Mm.
Being out there for 30 plus years out in the cosmos, helping everybody else, which, yeah, that's a noble thing, but also she was letting that guilt eat at her. And I love that
Mm.
she was able to resolve that guilt and to move on and re-embrace herself and her past and everything. So
Yeah.
that's it's a great way to end the movie.
Yeah. It
Um,
was the whole sorry, this is silly, but the whole moving in to Maria and Monica's old house, and the cons are helping her move, and
right.
like, what is this? I think it's just hot sauce.
Yeah.
As somebody who's like 33% sriracha sauce, I found that extremely relatable content. But I don't
That's
know.
funny.
Again, this whole movie is extremely relatable content for me. So
Right.
yeah. Anyway, even down to the hot sauce, I love it. I love it.
No, and I think it's really fun. This backing up just a little bit, let's talk about the kind of the finale of it all. They finally get caught up to Durban again, and trying to stop her from stealing our sun's power
Right.
to reignite Hala's sun. And it's that's where one of the best battle sequences come from, like
Mm.
how they're switching between each other, and uh um just everything is just so much fun. There's so much action going on, everybody's switching between each other, and getting their licks in, and Darben's holding her own because she's got that one quantum band.
Right.
And then once she gets that second one off of uh, Kamala, she opens up a bigger, you know, gate out there, which starts collapsing into an alternate, a parallel universe. So, um, once they stop Darben, or once Darben stops herself, basically, because they try to tell her, look, that's too much power for you. Um, I love that they have this moment where they figure out that how they can stop it. And Captain Marvel, or Monica. Problem is, Monica's character is also called Captain Marvel, so sometimes I get
Right.
defaulted onto that. But
Photon, spectrum,
yeah,
nightlight.
photon spectrum, yeah, everything. Um, I love those. Nightlight. That's funny. Um, but she's got to take on the combined power of the quantum bands and the power of Captain Marvel to help stop that, but she's got to do it from the other side. And in a way, like, sacrifice herself. And I like that's such a heartbreaking moment too, because Carol realizes what's going to happen, and
Hmm.
she races out there to go grab her and isn't able to do it in time. And that's just like she finally got Monica back in her life, and then she loses her.
Hmm.
And thankfully, she didn't die. She's just in a parallel universe. And hopefully, she'll come back soon. I'm
Hmm.
assuming she'll be back in time for at least Secret Wars, if not Doomsday.
Right.
Um, but it's I love that the power of the bands didn't affect Kamala in the same way it did Darben, like because it destroyed Darben. But Kamala's powers, I think, helped you know prevent that from happening with her.
Sure. Nor
Um,
DNA.
yeah, exactly. So I think that it's an interesting ending. I really enjoyed it. I think it was a great resolution for everything as well. Even if we lose Monica for now. Um, but I think that's part of what makes Carol go back. She wants to be
Yeah.
there for Monica when Monica returns.
Right.
And I just like, reconnecting with Monica and connecting with Kamala helps her kind of re-engage back in with everybody instead of staying out there. And I love that's the resolution of everything is that all of that happens. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
And oh no, and just thinking about also just the Kamala is kind of the bridge builder in
Yes.
so many ways in this film where she's able to, because she has such deep empathy, she's able to empathize with Monica over losing her mom, and that connection there kind of helps soften things a bit with her and Carol, even if they've been rocky.
Right.
It helps them to um, deepen that connection, and and gosh, like Kamala is just so dang charming. Like, how can you not love that
She
that
is.
girl? She's
Yeah.
she's such a sweetheart, and just has this um, wonderfully infectious personality, and but is good and kind. And so I think Carol sees in Kamala kind of a way to make up for what she missed with Monica.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, again, so that whenever Monica does come back, because they yes, they're sad that she's gone, but they know she's going to come back somehow. They just haven't figured it out yet. I
Right.
love that optimism.
Yes, absolutely.
They're there to welcome her home. Like
Yeah.
these three are going to be a team, and I think it's going to be really fun to watch. Because we get the little stinger
Yeah.
scene. Oh, I'm forming a Young Avengers type team, and I'm like, yes, please
Yes.
give me more Kate Bishop.
Yes.
I freaking love Kate Bishop so much. Her and Kamala on the same team, yes, please. Chef's kiss. Give me
Yes.
more. And
I'm
then Cassie, holy
yes.
cow, yes, please.
Yeah. No, and they've already introduced most of the Young Avengers already throughout
Hmm.
a lot of these movies and such. So I'm excited for that. I really hope they don't call them the Young Avengers. I really hope they go with Champions. That's my
Mm. Hmm.
fingers crossed thing. Um because just Young Avengers just like sure it was great for a comic book, but
Sure.
like
Yeah.
I just want them to move on and do
Yeah.
something more original, at least in terms of a movie
Yeah.
universe. So but yeah, no, I think that it's Kamala's just so good at being this, like you said, she's got such deep empathy, and she just huge amounts of optimism while also being realistic. She's not like the
Yeah.
optimism never clouds her realism.
Yeah.
Um, she hopes for the best, but understands that that's not always possible. And and I love that. Yeah, we're getting that kickstarting of a possible young team there, which is like I think that would be the greatest thing is to see these young heroes continue on this journey that the adults started. Um,
Right.
especially because all of them are still fairly young, and it'd be great to get a lot of these characters continuing for many more years. But yeah, it's just this movie's so much fun. Let's go ahead and talk about that after credit sequence as well. Because we get a little resolution with Carol. She wakes up, or not Carol, Monica. She
Hmm.
wakes up and sees her mom next to her, which is like
Hmm.
she's like, what, flabbergasted. But the woman next to her is like, Mom, what are you talking about? I'm not your mom.
Oh gosh.
And then we have like this great moment where the Beast from the X-Men, voiced by Kelsey Grammer again,
Yeah.
comes in. So it's this great little moment where you realize, okay, we're really in a different universe. And then Maria stands up and she's dressed quite differently in a costume that comic book readers will recognize. Not so much MCU people, but comic book readers recognize as binary. Um,
Yes.
which is in the comic books, it's a version of Carol Danvers. She lost her powers. It's complicated. So
Yeah.
Rogue from the X-Men steals her powers at one
Yep.
point, completely draining her of any ability and all of her memories. Um, which leads into a lot of complications for Rogue later on as well. But later on, Carol gets new powers, like cosmic powers, that she's able to use. It's like really superpower upgrade as well. And so she becomes a character called Binary for a while. And so that's what Maria has become, is Binary, which is
Hmm.
kind of teased earlier on in the thing too, is because there's this conversation. You see this conversation between Carol and Maria, because Carol did come back to Earth at some point.
Hmm.
I think it was during the blip. Um, yeah, it was during the blip because Monica had vanished during the blip, and then Maria was back at home and asking her to take Goose until Monica came back, and so this is like set between Infinity War and Endgame. And so, Carol makes a mention of that. Um, she, there was that race between them on the day that Carol ended up getting to do the test flight that ended up giving her the powers.
Hmm.
And Maria says, "No, I would have never wanted to have the powers and become Captain Marvel." Blah blah blah. But obviously, in this alternate universe, she did get the powers. So I love there's this, and plus we already got to see Maria Rambeau as Captain Marvel in the uh, Multiverse of Madness, also as
Mm-hmm.
an alternate version of Carol
Right.
as well. So I
Right.
love that we got that they're continuing along those roads of what would have happened if Maria had gotten the powers instead. So, so yeah, we're left with that kind of sting and you know like and I want to mention this too because we haven't really talked about her, but Teona Paris is so good as
She's
Monica
phenomenal.
Rambeau. She's so good. I loved her, like, in everything I've seen her in so far. Between Candyman, this, and there's a great Netflix movie that I just talked about on the show called They Cloned Tyrone.
Mr.
Um,
Nerdy Blogger got to watch that while I was away last week, and he's like, "It's so good." It's like, I know it's so good. I just haven't gotten to watch it yet.
watch it, and I've got
Yes,
an
yes,
episode
yes,
coming out
yes.
about it.
All right, bro.
By the time you hear this, the episode's already come out about it. So,
Right. Okay,
but
cool.
yeah, definitely check that out because it's so good, it's so fun, and also has a lot of good messaging to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she's so good in this. Like I will continue to sing Teyonah Parris's accolades forever because she's just
Yeah.
everything I've seen her in has been phenomenal.
No,
So it's
she's brilliant actress. I'm looking forward to watching her career with Glee.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I love that she got to work with Nia DaCosta again after having worked with her on Candyman.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
same, 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 same.
So yeah, no, huge props to her.
Mm.
But yeah, I love this movie. There's just so much about it that is so fun, and so meaningful in so many ways.
Mm.
And I think anybody who likes good fun, comic book movies, you owe it to yourself to watch this movie. Put aside whatever things you have, biases or whatever you have about it, and just go watch it if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
And then maybe if you're not like that, and it didn't appeal to you or whatever, and you just haven't seen it, go watch it. It's so much fun. It's just like it's just a ton of fun.
Yep. It's an hour and 45, not a huge time commitment. If you haven't
Exactly.
seen Miss Marvel or WandaVision or the first Captain Marvel film, it's okay. You really
Yeah.
don't have to.
They deepen the storyline, yes, but they're not 100% needed.
Right.
Yeah.
It's well worth your time, and it's fun and it's funny, and if you like kitty cats, oh my gosh, please go watch it. So many kitty cats in this movie. It made me so happy.
Yeah. No, absolutely. All right. Well, is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you wanted to mention?
Oh my gosh. Oh man. Let me think. I think we've hit all the high points, Rob. I could easily, spend hours talking about this film, but I'll let our lovely listeners come to their own conclusions on the Marvels. But if you too love the Marvels, please hit me up. I would love
Yeah.
to hear more about what you think on those. So
Yeah, let us both know what did you think of the movie, and then what did you think of the episode? And
yeah.
but yeah, that's all I got. Why don't you let people know where they can find you online?
Sure. You can hit me up on socials. I'm mostly on Bluesky these days. I do have a Facebook page as well, but I'm mostly just sharing the same stuff I'm sharing there on
Right.
Bluesky. So Bluesky is the best place to hit me. You can find me at thenerdyblogger.bsky.social. You can also connect with me on Mastodon as well at the nerdy blogger at mastodon.social. You can read my words on my blog, nerdyblogging.wordpress.com. You can also read my words on fangirlish.com, where I write about film and television, mostly Star Trek. I did write at least one piece on the Marvels and contributed to a roundtable, which I can send you, Rob, if you want to put them in
All
show
right.
notes.
Yeah, great.
If you want to read my further thoughts on the Marvels. You can hear my words being read on the Sci-Fi 5 podcast, which is 5 minutes of science fiction history, 5 days a week. Full podcast archive is available at roddenberrypodcasts.com. You can also hear me on the following podcasts. Podcast 616, which I co-host with Hugh McStay, talking all things MCU. You can hear me talking about Star Trek Strange New Worlds and other Star Trek goodness on We Are Starfleet. Both of those are part of the Film Stories podcast network. You can hear me on Mission Log Genealogy, which is all about Gene Roddenberry's pre-Star Trek TV writing. That is part of the Roddenberry podcast family. You can also hear me on the Video Store podcast, where myself and two of my friends, we rotating around Robin style, talking about film recommendations based around a theme or an actor or a particular genre that we're interested in. So you can hear me on that as well. I think that's all of my things, Rob. Busy lady.
Busy, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. I just got the one podcast, and occasionally get to pop into other ones here and there.
All of mine are collaborative, so
yeah, that definitely helps. Yeah, this
it doesn't
is
hurt
a soul
anything.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming on again. It's great to have you on, especially being able to talk the Marvels, which I know you enjoyed so much. So I definitely wanted to get you on for that.
Hey man, yeah, thank you for letting me volunteer myself for the Marvels.
Right, exactly. All right.
I love the movie and was happy to talk about it. So
yeah, definitely.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks again, and I'm sure we'll be having you on again fairly soon.
All right. Thanks for having me, Rob.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks for listening. Creepy and Geeky is produced and hosted by Robert Clark. If you like what you've heard, please consider giving the show 5 stars and a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And share the podcast on social media to help spread the word. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app or at creepyandgeeky.com. You can follow the podcast by going to creepyandgeeky.com and clicking on any of the social links. If you'd like to follow me, you can find my links at geekthulu.com. You can support the podcast by ordering teas and more on TeePublic or by donating to the coffee page. All of the links are in the show notes. Finally, don't forget, stay creepy.